All right, guys, good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of GAR Capital. It is Thursday, March 9th, 2023. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me this morning and every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good morning, William. William says, good morning, Carlos. All right, let's go ahead and go around the horn. A couple things to go over this morning. Dow futures up 51 points, NASDAQ up 0.14%, S&P is up 4, a little over flat. We are off the lows from this morning. Russell 2000 futures down about 0.05%. Crude oil futures 77.27 up 0.8%. We talk about that every day. Still stuck in that range between 75 and 81. Not much to do there. If we start breaking above, guys, I will definitely let you know or break down. Gasoline futures up 0.49%, $2.70 a gallon. 10-year treasury yields go red this morning, 3.968. We were at 4%. The reason that we are falling in yield is because of the unemployment claims. They came in at 211,000. That's the highest in 10 weeks. Nothing to get more excited for the bulls than people not working, I guess. That's my take on it. The dollar rejecting that 100-day moving average here on that blue line. We talked about that yesterday. 105.26, down 0.38%. Volatility index, the VIX, has a gap to fill right around 1910 currently on the hourly. It is up 0.68% at 1925 on the spot. Gold futures are up because the dollar is down, 18.29, up 0.59%. Silver futures up 0.42% at 2023. Copper futures up 0.5%, $4.04 currently. Euro dollar up 33 pips, 105.77. Dollar yen is down 136.11. What happens when the yen is down? When the yen is stronger than the dollar or dollar yen is down, rates usually go with it. We talked about that positive correlation between yields and the yen. Pound dollar 119.16, up 74 pips. Again, you could blame Mr. Dollar. Bitcoin futures, again, on that Silvergate news. Silvergate, I believe, is a bank for crypto. I've heard of them. I've never used them or anything like that. That's hurting crypto today. 21,705. They filed for bankruptcy, down 1.85% on Bitcoin futures contracts. 1540 for Ethereum futures, down about 1.44%. In terms of Bitcoin, in order to get really excited, remember we tapped 25,000, but we need a clean break of 25,000 before we can really talk about Bitcoin accelerating higher. Ethereum, for me, above 2,000 would get some people interested in Bitcoin moving forward. Now we're starting to get an acceleration higher here on the markets as Qs are starting to break out. Looks like the 300 level is on target. It's actually coming right now as we're above 298.58, which is the highs of Wednesday. In terms of the S&P this morning, I have a target of 40.14 for a break. I do have SPY calls. My target for the day is 40.41. That's your 20-day moving average. In terms of volume, volume has very much dropped out, at least this week. It is kind of, I want to say it's spring break. I'm not sure. My stepson is not on spring break yet. His is next week. Maybe that's when the market gets a little quiet. But again, when you have CPI next week and PPI next week, I doubt it'll be that less volume. But in terms of the market, I have seen volumes drop down so far this week. Let's go to SPY since Zoom Balloon is asking. We are now at 400. I do have those SPY calls, the 402s. We're looking for a target of around 401.50, at least short term. We should be able to catch that today. So we'll get that W on the board. I also had Google calls. I remember I was talking about that cup and handle setup that I posted. We got as high as 37% on these options, got to 30 while Powell was talking, and then we flipped down red. So I hate when that happens. It happens to me more times than you know. The good news is some of our members, when we do update them, they take it around 30-35%, or sometimes they see something on their phone and they just take it. They really don't wait for us. So if you caught Google, great. I'm still holding it, but that's where we are currently. The stock is green this morning with the NASDAQ and the S&P. Spring break for most universities are this week and next week. Yeah, the way I base university spring break is March Madness, which is college basketball. And I used to be really into making brackets for fun, office pools back in the day. I'm not doing it this year because this is enough March Madness for us. This terms of chop because we haven't gotten much. At least, obviously, March has been a pretty decent month for us, as we know. But again, some chop this month. Netflix is hurting. Obviously, I want to see if we get a little bit of a bounce, and maybe I can go ahead and get out of it. Maybe salvage some premium. I got an alert here at 3:15. Again, I have the 3:30 strike calls. So again, I would need a really big boost in the market for us to catch anything here. But at least we'll have some options if we go a little higher. Who knows? Maybe we get to around 3:15 and then now get us a little extra to get to 3:20 if we get to 40.42 ES. But that's my target on ES in terms of SPY upside. We are kind of moving higher. There is 100 MA right here at 401.58. So again, keep that in the back of your pocket. That's right around that 20-day moving average. So pretty similar price action, or the expectation for that. I think that would probably be 41.53 should get us around 40.82 or so. Let me make sure I have the right daily mark. 401. Yeah, it'll probably get you to around here. So you're probably right around 401.14, excuse me. So kind of the similar alerts to the upside if we can get that break. I am holding SPY calls and see if we can catch that in the morning. But again, the big thing here is really the dollar. Couple of things I want to go over this morning. Again, the claims 10-month highs. That was around 211,000 in unemployment claims. So again, that's the first rise in unemployment since Christmas. So again, the market is liking that because it may give us a hint to non-farm payroll report next week, tomorrow. And again, if that comes in weaker than expected or stronger than expected, it'll definitely move the market. We went ahead and placed a little chart on it, or an explanation on NFP on our Instagram page. Feel free to take a look at that. Question here is, when do my SPY calls expire? They expire tomorrow. So I opened them yesterday. I'm pretty much close to flat on them. Not exactly flat, but again, not terrible on it. So again, getting a little breakout here, at least on the hourly chart. Maybe we can catch those SPY calls first thing this morning after the note, when the bell rings, and see if we can catch a little points in our pocket. So there's one thing that came out yesterday, which was the proposed tax hikes by the Biden administration for increasing capital gains tax, which affects you if you're an options trader or a trader or an investor. Increases taxes on those making over 400,000. You have also increases on billionaires and taxes like that. We did get a little bit of movement in the market, but not as much. So I want to kind of clarify. Again, it's not a political statement. It's just the reality. It is just a proposal. So again, this is why the S&P really didn't move. And this is why the S&P isn't red. Maybe there was an expectation overnight that a tax increase, at least a proposal, would cause us to go down a little bit. But again, it's just a proposal. Again, this is what every president does. They submit their budget proposal. And again, a little sidebar, any kind of proposal to really get their base riled up usually is the case. Higher taxes on the wealthy, higher investment taxes, all Democratic platforms, nothing new, whether it's low taxes or lower regulation, lower capital gains tax. That will be more on the Republican side. So again, that's what you usually get. Even President Trump's, President Obama's, President Clinton, President Bush's initial budgets were not approved immediately. They usually have debate in the Congress. So again, I don't expect that budget proposal to go through at all. So that's where we are. What option tenor do you usually purchase when you see an opportunity, aka DTE? If I was supposed to open a trade today, let's just tell you that. If I was in a single trade today, it'd be for next week, so I can catch the momentum. So I never do zero DTE trades. I don't. It's just too much of a risk. I have done them before, but I don't do them anymore. Sounds like a drug addict. I used to do that, but I don't do it anymore. No, no zero DTE. That's not what we want to do. But the SPY calls expire tomorrow, so not exactly a zero DTE. We played 2-day DTE yesterday. When we played that bounce off the actual support level that we were looking for of right around 398 or 3980 ES. Back to the tax increases that's proposed. I did have a DM from someone on Instagram, and I wanted to clarify something with him regarding those tax hikes that are proposed by the Biden administration. And it's, again, I'm just going to keep it business. That's all I want to keep it as. Again, political things aside, we just want you to, you vote how you vote. Fine. Everyone has their opinion. Fine by me. But again, I want to keep it really focused on the business aspect. And we could talk about politics all day, but that ain't gonna get you paid. What's gonna get you paid is this. So again, that's what I like to focus on. What benefits the viewer? So let's kind of compare, and I've talked about this many times. What is a very good comparison to where we are now in the economy? Not the stock market, but the economy. And I've repeated now since last year, it's the 1980s. Funny, an old man in the White House, Ronald Reagan, old man in the White House, Joe Biden, right? Two different political parties, yes. In 1981, Ronald Reagan had a tax cut. We also had high interest rates, high inflation. So let's go ahead and go over the numbers. Let's go ahead to Fred. We'll go to the Consumer Price Index for the 1980s to kind of give you a little bit of a background. So let's go ahead and do max. Let's start with 1980, and we'll go all the way to, okay, that's 1980, and we'll go all the way to 1989, just the whole decade. We'll go to December. Here was the Consumer Price Index. Let me go ahead and edit it for percentages, percent change from a year ago. And you could see how high inflation was, 15% CPI, and then but falling, but still relatively high. I mean, this is directly from the St. Louis Fed. So keep an eye on this here. And the reason I'm saying this is that in 1981, Ronald Reagan and the Congress passed a tax cut. And yes, inflation came down. We also had a little bit of a bump in inflation back in September 81. Reading the history of that economy, Ronald Reagan actually had to walk back his tax cuts, not really changing it, but had to do a tax hike. This is the tax hike. So again, this is nothing new. Tax hikes in a high inflation environment. It was called the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982. And again, this was the biggest tax increase in U.S. history when adjusted for inflation. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, whoa, a Republican did that? Yes, Ronald Reagan in 1982. What happened when we had that tax increase? Inflation accelerated down. Granted, the Fed did pause rate hikes. Correlation does not always equal causation, obviously. But again, I hate to say this and it sounds so horrible, but actually increasing taxes is a deflationary tactic. It's a way to kill inflation. You're taking away more money from people to spend. Now, personally, would I do that? No, but again, it has happened before. So again, there has been nothing passed. It's just a proposal. But again, we have had that same kind of cycle in the 1980s. 81 tax cut, 2020, we had stimulus. 1981, inflation is stubborn. Going into 82, we're now in 2023, and about 30-something years apart, almost 40 years apart. And now we're starting to see inflation kind of creep back up, right? Or kind of stabilizing a little bit, a little to the higher side. And then what happens after we got that tax cut or tax hike and the pause? Again, a lot of things working right. We started falling in terms of CPI inflation. And then we had the nice roaring in 1983, 84, 85, 86. And then 87, we had a major crash, which was Black Monday, which was recouped. And inflation was rather tame in the 1980s. So that's where we were in terms of tax hikes back then. Am I advocating tax hikes right now? No, I'm just giving you guys the perspective that this has a sense of kind of redoing everything or precedent. So again, it's just a proposal. We'll see what happens moving forward. But again, nothing has changed, at least in the equity market, due to President Biden's tax proposal. Anyways, looking to play the Ecolab 180 calls for February earnings. April earnings. They just put their products on the shelves at Home Depot. Should I wait for volume? I would definitely wait for volume, but what is the ticker? Let's say ECO. I want to say it's ECO. I don't know this name, so we'll go ahead and expand it here. And you want to play earnings in April. The 180 calls, I hope I have the right ticker because 180 is definitely out of the money, Jared. If you want to go ahead and give me the ticker on Ecolab, or you're just trying to give me, kind of a setup in terms of what you're trying to do, then I would try to get as close to the date of earnings instead of watching premium burn ahead of it. Unless you expect something to come out, some news immediately. If I were trading this name, and again, let's just say all things being equal in terms of volume, I would want to wait a break of around 164, and you do have a nice little gap here of around 176. So I can see the 180 calls being something that you may be interested in or taking a look at, but I would wait for a break of 165 first, because that'll consider this a little bit of a breakout here, at least on the daily chart. Excuse me. And then you have a target here of around 175 to 180 for the next leg up. So that's ECL. That's how I would look at it, just based on technicals. Wait for the 165 level to break, then you could target the 175 calls. If 180 breaks because of earnings coming up, then you're going to be deep in the money and your target will be 185. So I just wouldn't get into it yet. I'd wait for that break first, and instead of just wasting premium just waiting, you could just wait instead. So there you go. JD answered the question. Thank you, guys. So again, that's where we are this morning. Let's see what we get. Kind of a choppy week this week. Obviously Netflix being a loser, but AMD extremely resilient. I mean, we could have traded this nearly 8 times the way it moved this week. Look at this. We've had a pop and a drop, a pop and a drop, a pop and a drop, and then now popping again. And remember, we were targeting that 85 level. We talked about that on Twitter. We put that on our watch list this weekend. So we caught it, obviously, for 40%. I think it went as high as 51 or so, but now it's in the money now at 85. So I wish I would have held, but that's why you want to hold sometimes, because, hey man, you know, in the money calls now if you would have closed at break even or so. But again, the setup was great. It was just a little volatile week is all. So Nvidia and AMD and the chip makers are definitely leading the way this week. Nvidia is now one of the heavier weights in QQQ. Imagine that. And it is now has a higher market cap than Tesla. So we talked about Nvidia when it came to our top 10 stocks of 2023, that if you wanted to take a look at the AI space, you know, a lot of people are talking about AI. Who makes the chips for that? It would be Nvidia. So that's something to look at. ECL, yep, just went over that. Again, we want to get over you want to get over the level of 165, Jared, before you play any trade there. I wouldn't want to waste premiums buying the contracts now just to wait. I could wait a little longer, see if I get that 165 break, target 175. If the actual earnings come in as you expect to 180, which would be your strike before, you'd be in the money anyway. So that's probably your best setup. Earnings is April 25th. The closest date will be July calls. Gotcha. Could you wait for the 165 break? That's probably the best piece of information I can give you on that. Do you ever look at the unusual options activity? When it comes to unusual options activity, what I go to the scan button on TOS. I put a minimum amount of 10,000, and then I sort. To be fair, the Netflix call that I have today had 10,000 in vol at the end of the day on Monday, and it's red. So it doesn't always work. But again, there was some volume there, and the chart actually was supporting it. But even unusual options activity can be red as well. So I can't say I really used it a ton, but it's something that I do keep my eye on. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and leave it there. Have a great rest of your morning, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for the morning note. We have non-farm payroll report tomorrow. So we'll let you guys know what that number is. We'll discuss it, talk about the Fed a little bit, and what happens moving forward. Have a great rest of your morning. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Cheers.